Sorry. Thanks, Jamie. It's good to see so many people, and I think it shows the value that everybody places on the importance of employer brand. Over the last few weeks, Monster have been discussing amongst ourselves within the teams on, I guess, the content that we wanted to share with everybody this afternoon. And the commitment I made to Keith earlier and the commitment I've made to everybody through this morning are that, you know what, nobody really would want me or would want Monster to stand here and to talk product or talk Monster, talk global footprint to you. And I think the decision we made over the last couple of weeks were the opportunity to listen and to learn from this afternoon and today is the biggest factor for us. It's a critical piece in the conversations that we have on a daily basis with our clients. Whether we read about the importance of employer brand through media commentary, or whether we discuss the importance of employer brand through our own Monster Buzz events, we know it's something that's growing traction, and it's something that we've got to be a part of that conversation and communication. But right now for us it's the listening and the learning that's important. Over the last couple of weeks I've been spending some time talking with Louise from SAS, and our opportunity today is really to share some true intelligence on the subject. Jason is joining Louise from SAS today, and really to kick off the debate with some questions and some real pertinent points for everybody to discuss through the afternoon. So with no more waffle from me, it's over to Jason to share some real insight.
Thank you very much. That's a big promise. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I've been told to keep it short and sweet. Haven't got any pictures or complicated visual aids for you. So I'm head of our talent communications practice at SAS. We help organisations define, articulate, express, and then manage their employer brands. Simple as that. We have worked for BP, Sainsbury's, Coca-Cola, KPMG, Ernst & Young, all kinds of big organisations, and smaller ones too. So, what am I going to say? So, big thing, I don't know if they'll poop the party, but there's I guess, what I find a lot in conversations with employers, we all tend to live under this kind of fallacy, this kind of this delusion that we're going around creating employer brands. But we're not at all, none of us here really, in the strictest sense, because we all have employer brands, like it or not. Had one before you did what you did, before anyone managed it. They exist in the head of your employees, they exist in the heads of your candidates. And a truth that we have to accept is that we can only control a certain percentage of employer brand. So most of our clients, I'd say, well, I don't know, 25% is the proportion where we can exert control. The rest is consumer brand, corporate brand, media coverage, rogue employee behaviour, all that kind of stuff. And for all of our clients, that exerts a massive, massive influence on what they do. So you look at BT, been fighting for years to fight the misperception that we're British, old-fashioned, conservative, mum and dad's landline company. Sainsbury's, nobody on campuses likes retail. Coca-Cola is the opposite. 10 million applications every second, but all irrelevant because they all think it's making ads with polar bears, and it's not, of course. And so it goes on, BP, etc., etc., etc. So some corporate brands or consumer brands exert a positive influence, some exert a neutral influence, a lot exert a kind of detrimental influence on us, and that really kind of informs where we're focusing our efforts at the moment. What we're seeing is reduced spend on the glitzy toolkits, lots of glitzy shiny things around here, but the things that we spend a lot of our energy and time worrying about, this tool, that job board, this, that, the other, they're all really, really important. But before that, there's a couple of things. First of all, getting your EVP, getting your employer brand, your messages absolutely nailed down, and having a really kind of clear idea of what that is. And then that can inform every decision about platforms and tools, etc., etc. The second big implication of what I said is the first implication of what I said is that what we're seeing at the moment is, given that we can only control 20-25% through what we do, how do we exert an influence on the other 75%? And that's where I think most of us need to be focusing a lot of our efforts. So, for instance, with BP, we are spending most of our time with our specialist PR people working with their corporate PR people to make sure every time a leader or a manager goes out or interviewed, they talk about the talent agenda. If BP are actually at a stage where they can't do stuff because they haven't got enough people. So it's absolutely business critical. So it's about exerting influence on brand. So for instance, a lot of progressive companies now, when the marketing department goes away and forms a corporate brand, what they really should be doing is having one of you guys round the table to create a brand like the Accenture high performance delivered, high performing people, a brand that works as an employer brand as well. Because employer branding would have never existed actually if all the branding agencies through the 90s and the noughties had got it right. If they'd actually created brands that bore people in mind. This industry was created from a kind of error on the part of the branding agencies. What's happening more and more is they're now considering employees and we're finding less and less room to manoeuvre and less kind of wide space for employer branding to happen because employer branding is built into the corporate brand or because corporate brands have a lot of power and they don't want the employer brand to be very far from it at all. So those two are getting closer and closer and closer. And the days of having an employer brand which is miles away and shinier and different from the corporate brand are long gone, I think. And in most cases it's not appropriate. Even though we around this table would love to do it and to make it look cuddlier and fluffier or whatever else than our corporate brand. It can't be. It needs to be true to the corporate brand. So that's the first thing. And if you've got a 40-hour week, I don't know, I'm sure you're all doing this and preaching to the converted, but you probably need to spend 10 of it going and nagging the corporate PR department, nagging the brand people, nagging the marketing people, nagging the people who are training your people and thinking about the customer service experience you're delivering, all those people, and infusing your employer brand agenda into what they're doing, because they can exert a lot stronger influence than you can. So, there's one thing we should be doing. And that also goes to speaking to your board level. So, Deloitte's a good example. Way back 7 years ago, when we started working with them, we don't anymore, they were focused on all areas, but one particular focus was graduate. As you know, the Big Four, graduate's massive. So they were 13th in the Times Top 100. They wanted to be number 1. So we got them to number 2. Can't take all the credit, because the biggest defining factor by miles was that the board in the UK made getting involved in talent and turning up on campus and contributing to that effort something to be good for your career. So when you did something good, you get a note from the managing partner saying, well done, that's great, another kind of pat on the back and a brownie point for your career. So getting your board, I noticed when the new chairman, or was it CEO, I can't remember, KPMG joined a couple of months ago, clearly the talent people had been at him, because half the interview was about talent and the importance of people. Now you could spend any amount of money on advertising, films, whatever, to create that kind of impact with people. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, and again, I'm probably preaching to the converted, but spending a lot of your energies, and for most of our clients are spending loads of energies now, focusing, just turning 180 degrees around and focusing on employees. So, we all know that the biggest factor in employer brand is the actions, the behaviour, the language, and the referral and advocacy of your employees. And the increasing shift to direct sourcing model puts employees right at the heart of that. So, what we're actually doing is shifting budget into creating what we're calling a talent culture. Call it what you want, we all hate jargon. But it's about doing engagement internally at every level in the business to get everybody to understand that actually, and this includes your recruiters, who sometimes behave in ways that they're not thinking about brand experience at all, they're sometimes the worst culprits, is to realise that everything they do, and I mean everything, every conversation they have with a colleague, a client, everything they say to their mate, their mother, their cousin, at barbecues, parties, bar mitzvahs, whatever, will either detract from or add to the employer brand and your reputation as it exists. I've just classically been chatting to other people here, you know, just partners not realising that they can actually refer people and save the company £100,000 in recruitment fees, for example. Just getting people engaged. We do loads of this, just running internal events to get people to celebrate, understand, engage with, participate in, contribute to that whole talent agenda. And that might be getting them on a campus, getting them to create a user-generated video about their experience, getting them to tweet, getting them to turn up at an event, whatever it is. But increasingly, given that CEOs are saying acquisition of talent is top 3 in their global issues, after acquisition of capital and the state of the economy, it should be on the performance dashboards, the performance measurement systems of your people, and particularly the leaders. So referrals are a classic example. We think we can offer 10 grand and therefore people will do it. What our research has shown is actually most of the time it's not about the money. It's about being seen to have done something positive, creating shared value, being seen to have a good network, being seen to be someone who can bring talent into the business because it's good for your career. So at Ernst & Young, for example, the way we communicate now about referral, it used to be, you know, get a holiday at 2 grand. Wasn't very successful. Now it's a completely different, more joined up message, and it's joined up to a much wider message about talent culture. And of course that extends to all the smart tools you can use now to get your people referring positively. There's a good example of using employees in a really kind of crude way with BP when the Gulf of Mexico happened. Massive problem with the employer brand. What we actually found, we did research in LinkedIn, got 2,000 engineers, isolated them. The biggest finding was everybody thought BP wasn't recruiting. Well, you know, au contraire, they desperately needed loads of people. So a simple thing we did with employees' consent, we stuck ads saying, brilliant creative, it was green and yellow, and it said, we're hiring. And that went out onto 21,000 people's profiles because we worked out that each of them has about 21 connections with relevant professionals in a week or a month or whatever, and it was really, really successful. So, so it's about stakeholder relationships, getting people to understand the agenda and thread it through everything you do in terms of communications. And secondly, it's all about the people. So, simple message. I get that's where we're having the impact at the moment. And I guess before that, it's just this thing which you see far too often is actually what do we stand for? What is our employment experience? And how can we crystallise that in 10 words and not in a list of HR-driven bullet points, which is world-class training, great culture, You know, branding is all about getting from a list of 12 things and really having the balls to say one thing or 2 things and say it over and over and over again. That's hard for, I don't know whether you've seen the classic video on YouTube, it's called the Apple Mac versus Microsoft, and how Microsoft would have packaged the Apple Mac. And it's full of bullet points and stars and ugly pictures and stuff like that, as opposed to Mac, which is beautiful simplicity. And who would you invite around to dinner? Mac or Microsoft? I know what the answer is. So that less is more thing as well, and that is challenging, and that's probably the biggest thing we get to do with clients. So I don't know if that's been helpful, but if anyone has any questions at this point, or whether I just pass over.